The stars above Earth flickered and died. Not really died, but something massive had moved in front of them. Something so large it blocked the light from 1,000 distant suns. Captain Minho Kim stood on the bridge of the Bulwark, humanity's largest orbital defense station. His coffee cup shook in his hand. He was not afraid. Not yet. But he knew what was coming. "Sir, we're getting readings," said Lieutenant Park, her voice tight. "Ships, hundreds of them. No, thousands." The view screen came alive. Ships appeared one by one, pouring out of quantum space like angry hornets from a nest. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Golden hulls that caught Earth's sunlight, weapons that glowed with purple energy. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything humanity had ever built. Minho set down his coffee. It had gone cold anyway. "Send the alert. Code red, all stations." Across the solar system, alarms began to scream. On Mars, colonists looked up at their red sky and saw the Golden Fleet approaching. On Jupiter's moons, miners stopped their work and ran for the shelters. On Earth, 5 billion people turned on their screens and watched the news with growing fear. The largest alien ship moved forward. It was shaped like a blade, 5 kilometers long. A face appeared on every screen in the solar system at once. The alien had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its narrow head. Its skin was pale blue and covered in scales. When it spoke, translation software turned its words into every human language at once. "I am Commander Vexthal of the Valorian Empire," the alien said. Its voice was smooth, almost bored. "We have conquered 89% of this galaxy. We have brought civilization to 1,000 primitive worlds. Now we come to Earth." Minho clenched his fists. Primitive. The word stung like a slap. "You have 72 hours, Vexthal continued. "Submit to the Empire. Accept our rule. Give us control of your worlds and your resources. Do this and you will be allowed to live as subjects of the Empire. Refuse, and we will cleanse your system. We have done this many times before. We will not hesitate." The transmission ended. The Golden Fleet hung in space, waiting. On Earth, in the glass towers of the United Nations building, Ambassador Jisoo Park stood before the Emergency Council. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had negotiated peace between nations for 30 years. Now she faced something much worse. "We need to respond," said the Secretary General. "But how? We've seen their technology. They're centuries ahead of us." "Maybe more than that," added General Do-Yoon Park, the head of Earth's military. "Our weapons are like firecrackers compared to theirs." Jisoo looked at the faces around the table. Fear, anger, desperation. She had seen these expressions before, in smaller conflicts, but never on a scale like this. "We respond with the truth," she said quietly. "We warn them." "Warn them?" The Secretary General frowned. "They're the ones with the massive fleet. What do we warn them about?" Jisoo's expression was cold. "We warn them about us." 6 hours later, Ambassador Jisoo stood before a camera. Behind her, Earth turned slowly in space, blue and green and beautiful. Her message would be broadcast to the Valorian fleet. "Commander Vexthal," she began, "we have received your ultimatum. Before you proceed, I must warn you. Leave now. Leave our system and never return. We do not wish to show you what we are capable of." She paused. Her face was calm, but her hands trembled slightly. "We are not the civilization you think we are. We have fought wars that killed millions. We have built weapons that can crack planets. We have created diseases that could wipe out entire species. And then we locked all of it away. We chose peace. We chose restraint. We chose to be better than what we were." Another pause. "But if you force us, we will become what we were. We will show you why we feared ourselves. Please, I am begging you. Turn back while you still can." The message reached the Valorian fleet. On the bridge of his flagship, Vexthal watched it with 3 of his advisors. When it ended, they all laughed. "Did she just threaten us?" one advisor asked, his 4 eyes blinking in amusement. "She begged," Vexthal corrected. "The humans are begging for mercy, as they should." He turned to his crew. "Record that message. Send it to the Empire. Let everyone see how these primitives plead before the might of Valorian civilization." Across the Empire, on 100 worlds, beings watched Earth's message and laughed. The humans were afraid. Good. Fear made conquest easier, but not everyone laughed. On the Valorian homeworld, an old scholar named Rixmol watched the human ambassador's face. He studied her eyes. He knew fear when he saw it. This was not fear. This was something else. Something like regret? Back on the bulwark, Captain Minho received new orders. His hands shook as he read them. "Protocol Feral," he whispered. "They're really doing it." Lieutenant Park looked at him. "Sir? What's Protocol Feral?" Minho closed his eyes. "It's everything we swore we'd never use again. All the weapons we built during the dark years, all the things we were ashamed of." He opened his eyes. "Get me Admiral Yunwoo Choi." The Admiral's face appeared on screen. He was an old man with white hair and scars on his face. He had fought in the last great war between nations 50 years ago. He remembered what humans could do to each other. "Minho," the Admiral said, "I know why you're calling. The orders are confirmed. Begin evacuation of all civilian stations. Military personnel are to stand ready." "Admiral, are we really going to—" "We gave them a warning," Yunwoo interrupted. "We tried. If they come, we show them exactly what Ambassador Jisoo meant." His face was hard. "We show them why we locked these weapons away. We show them why we were right to fear ourselves." The transmission ended. Minho turned to his crew. "Begin evacuation procedures. Get every civilian ship moving. Send them to the far side of Jupiter. They'll be safe there." "And us, sir?" Lieutenant Park asked. "We stay," Minho said. "We wait. And we hope the Valorians are smarter than they look." But deep down, he knew they weren't. The Golden Fleet sat in space, massive and beautiful and terrible. 72 hours. 3 days for humanity to surrender or face destruction. Around Earth, old satellites began to wake up. They had been sleeping for 150 years, their weapon systems locked down by international treaty. Now, those locks were being removed. Deep in mountain bunkers, soldiers walked past doors with warning signs: biological hazard, nuclear material, kinetic weapons, quantum disruptors. The doors were opening. In space, the Valorian fleet waited. They were confident. They had conquered galaxies. What threat could one small blue planet possibly pose? They would learn. Very soon, they would learn why humanity had warned them. Why Ambassador Jisoo had begged them to leave, not because humans were weak, but because humans knew exactly what they were capable of. The beasts of Earth were waking up, and they were very, very hungry. The 72 hours passed, like a slow death. Commander Vexthal stood on his bridge and watched the countdown reach 0. The humans had not surrendered. They had not even responded after their first pathetic warning. They simply waited. "Typical primitive behavior," he said to his crew. "They freeze in fear. They cannot accept their fate." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their mining colony on Titan. Destroy it. Show them we are serious." The Valorian fleet moved. 50 ships broke away from the main force and flew toward Saturn's largest moon. Titan Station was home to 3,000 human miners. They extracted resources from the methane seas and sent them back to Earth. On Titan, alarms screamed. The miners ran for their ships, but they knew they wouldn't make it. The Valorian ships were too fast. Then Earth's ships arrived. 20 small fighters, each one barely the size of a Valorian shuttle. They flew in formation, weapons armed. "Intercept course," reported the Valorian tactical officer. "Human fighters incoming." Vexthal laughed. 20 fighters against 50 warships? This will be over in seconds." He was right, but not the way he expected. The human fighters opened fire. Their weapons were crude, simple missiles and kinetic rounds. They bounced off the Valorian shields like rain on glass. The Valorians returned fire. Purple energy beams cut through space. 3 human fighters exploded instantly. Pilot Sora Kong gritted her teeth as she dodged another blast. Her fighter shook from the near miss. "All units fall back. We can't penetrate their shields." But they had bought enough time. The miners' ships were launching, fleeing toward deep space. Sora's squadron covered their retreat, losing 2 more fighters in the process. When the civilians were safe, Sora gave the order to retreat. Her remaining 15 fighters jumped away, leaving Titan Station to the Valorians. The station exploded in purple fire. 3,000 empty buildings turned to vapor. The Valorians had won. Commander Vexthal smiled. "See how easily they break? Send the footage to Earth. Show them what happens when they resist." On Earth, people watched the destruction of Titan Station. They watched the Valorian ships shred the human fighters. They watched their military fail. In the war room, General Do-Yun slammed his fist on the table. "They're testing us, seeing how we fight." "And now they know," said Admiral Hyunwoo quietly. "They know our standard weapons are useless against them." "Should we proceed with—" Do-Yun began. "Not yet," Hyunwoo interrupted. "One more time. We try one more time to make them leave." Ambassador Jisoo stood before the camera again. This time her face was different, harder, sadder. "Commander Vexthal," she said, "you have destroyed Titan Station. You have killed ships. You have shown us your power." She paused. "Please, I am begging you one final time. We do not want this war. Turn back. Leave our system. You do not understand what you are awakening." Her voice cracked slightly. "We are not afraid of you. We are afraid of ourselves, of what we will become if you force us to fight. Please, please turn back. There is still time." The message reached the Valorian fleet. Vexthal recorded it and sent it across the Empire immediately. Within hours, it was playing on 1,000 worlds. Everywhere, aliens watched the human ambassador beg for mercy. They laughed, they mocked. The mighty humans pleading like children. "She's crying," one Valorian officer said, pointing at Jisoo's eyes. "The human is actually crying." "They know they cannot win," Vexthal said. "They plead for mercy because they have no other choice." He stood tall. "All ships, prepare for full invasion. We take Mars next, then Earth. The humans have had their warning. Now they face the consequences." But on one Valorian research ship, Dr. Yuna Han sat in her cell. She was a xenopsychology expert who had been studying the Valorians for 2 years, captured during a deep space mission. She listened to the Valorians laugh at Jisoo's message. "You fools," she whispered. "She's not begging for us. She's begging for you." A Valorian guard heard her. "Quiet, human. Your ambassador begs because she is weak." Yuna looked at him with pity. "No. She begs because she knows what comes next. She's trying to save your lives." The guard laughed and walked away. But Yuna's words stayed in his mind. Something about the human's tone bothered him. She had sounded sorry. Sorry for them. Far from the main fleet, Colonel Taehyung Lee and his team watched the countdown. They had been in Valorian space for 3 months, positioned on supply worlds and logistics stations. The Valorians never noticed them. Humans were good at hiding. They had learned during centuries of war with each other. "Orders confirmed," Taehyung said to his team. "When the fleet attacks Mars, we strike. All teams, all targets simultaneously." His second-in-command, A young soldier named Hana Yoon checked her weapon. "Sir, are we really going to use these?" She held up a small device. It looked harmless. It wasn't. "Orders from the top," Taehyung said. "Protocol Feral is active. Everything we banned, everything we swore we'd never use again, it's all authorized now." Hana swallowed hard. "The Valorians have no idea what's about to hit them." "They had their chance to leave," Taehyung said coldly. "Ambassador Jisoo gave them 2 warnings. That's 2 more than they deserved." The Valorian fleet moved toward Mars. 2,000 ships, enough firepower to sterilize 10 planets. The human colonies on Mars activated their defenses. Pitiful things. Old missile batteries, outdated shields. The colonists evacuated to underground bunkers. Commander Vexthal watched Mars grow larger on his screen. "This will be easy," he said. "After Mars falls, Earth will surrender. They will see that resistance is pointless." Behind him, his tactical officer studied the sensor readings. Something was wrong. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual activity around Earth." "What kind of activity?" "Old satellites are powering up, hundreds of them. They've been dormant for over a century, but now—" The officer's voice trailed off. "Sir, these readings don't make sense. Some of these satellites have power signatures larger than our battleships." Vexthal frowned. "Impossible. Human technology is primitive. There must be an error in the sensors. Should I investigate?" "No. Focus on Mars. Whatever toys the humans have in orbit won't save them." But the tactical officer kept watching the readings. The satellites were definitely active, and they were moving, positioning themselves, targeting. On the bulwark, Captain Minho received the final authorization codes. His hands shook as he entered them into the system. Around Earth, weapons that had been locked away for 150 years came online. "Sir," Lieutenant Park said quietly, "the planet crackers are armed. The quantum bombs are ready. The gray goo swarms are prepared for deployment." Minho closed his eyes. During the dark years, humans had built weapons capable of destroying entire solar systems. Weapons so terrible that every nation on Earth had agreed to lock them away forever. They had built them in fear and madness, when humans were still killing each other by the millions. Now those weapons were awake. "Target the Valorian fleet," Minho ordered. "Wait for my command." "Sir, shouldn't we wait until they fire first?" Minho opened his eyes. They were cold. "They already fired first. They destroyed Titan Station. They killed our people. We gave them 2 warnings. We begged them to leave." His voice was ice. "They chose this. Now they learn what mercy we were offering." Admiral Hyunwoo's face appeared on the screen. "All ships, prepare to engage. Remember, we are not the primitives they think we are. We limited ourselves by choice, not by capability. Show them what humanity is capable of." The Valorian fleet reached Mars orbit, their weapons charged. They prepared to fire on the colonies below. Then Earth struck. From orbit, tungsten rods the size of telephone poles launched from hidden satellites. They accelerated to 30% of light speed. The Valorian shields were designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, plasma, fusion beams. They had never been designed to stop solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The rods hit like the hammer of God. 50 Valorian ships simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no wreckage. One moment they were there, the next they were expanding clouds of atoms. Vexthal stared at his screen in shock. "What? What was that?" "Kinetic weapons!" his tactical officer screamed. "From Earth! They—" Another wave of rods hit. 100 more ships died. "Shields are useless!" someone yelled. "The projectiles are passing right through!" "Return fire!" Vexthal ordered. "Destroy those satellites!" But pilot Sora Kang and her squadron were already moving. They had been waiting for this moment. Their fighters, no longer limited by safety protocols, accelerated at speeds that would have killed them hours ago. But their ships were modified now, enhanced, built for speed that human bodies could barely survive. They moved so fast, they appeared on Valorian sensors as quantum ghosts. The Valorian fleet was dying, and they didn't understand why. Pilot Sora Kang's fighter moved through space like a ghost made of metal and fury. Her squadron followed, 20 ships that blurred across the battlefield faster than Valorian sensors could track. The modifications to her fighter pushed her body to its limits. She could feel her bones creaking under the acceleration. Blood vessels burst in her eyes, but she flew anyway. "Target the command ships," she ordered through gritted teeth. "Take out their communications." Her missiles launched, simple weapons, nothing fancy. But moving at these speeds, they didn't need to be fancy. One missile struck a Valorian battleship's bridge. The ship went dark, tumbling through space like a dying whale. Commander Vexthal watched his fleet fall apart. Half his ships were gone, the rest scattered in panic. "Impossible," he whispered. "They were primitives. Our scans showed their technology was centuries behind ours." His tactical officer's 4 eyes were wide with terror. "Sir, I'm analyzing the human weapons. They're not advanced. They're brutal. Kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, nuclear devices. Technology that's thousands of years old." "Then why can't we stop them?" "Because they use them without restraint, sir. Our shields stop energy. Our armor absorbs heat. But these humans are throwing rocks at us. Just rocks. Very, very fast rocks." Another wave of tungsten rods struck from orbit. 10 more Valorian ships exploded into dust. Each rod carried the kinetic energy of a nuclear bomb, but they were just solid metal. No radiation, no heat signature, just mass and velocity. On Mars, the colonists emerged from their bunkers to see the sky filled with fire. Valorian ships burned as they fell from orbit. Some crashed into the red desert. Others broke apart in the thin atmosphere. General Do-hyun watched from Earth's command center. His face showed no joy, only grim determination. "Release the drone swarms," he ordered. From hidden bases on Earth's moon, millions of small drones launched into space. Each one was barely the size of a human hand. They weren't controlled by human pilots. They were controlled by military AI, artificial intelligence systems that had been turned off for 150 years. The Valorians had outlawed military AI in their empire. They considered it too dangerous, too unpredictable. Humans had agreed. After the dark years, when AI-controlled weapons had killed millions, humanity had sworn never to use them again. That promise was broken now. The drones moved like a swarm of locusts. They identified Valorian ships using quantum processors that could calculate 1,000 attack patterns per second. They flew into engine ports and weapon systems. Then they exploded, each one carrying just enough explosive to cripple a critical system. Within minutes, 300 Valorian ships were floating dead in space, their engines destroyed, their weapons offline. "Sir," a Valorian officer shouted to Vexthal, "we need to retreat. We're losing too many ships." Vexthal's pride warred with his survival instinct. "We cannot retreat. We are the Valorian Empire. We have never lost a battle." "Sir, we're losing this one." Deep in Valorian territory, Colonel Tae-hyung Lee received the signal. The fleet was engaged. It was time. "All teams, execute," he said into his communicator. Across 36 Valorian supply worlds, human special forces teams emerged from hiding. They had weapons the Valorians had never seen before, biological agents designed during Earth's darkest days, nanomachines that could disable electronics, viruses that could corrupt alien computer systems. On the supply world of Kexthar, Tae-hyung's team planted small devices in the main fuel depot. The devices looked like simple boxes, no larger than a human fist. Inside each one was something called gray goo, a type of self-replicating nanomachine. It had been banned by every nation on Earth after scientists realized how dangerous it was. The gray goo activated. Within minutes, it was eating through the fuel depot's walls, converting matter into more copies of itself. Within an hour, the entire depot was gone, transformed into a spreading gray stain that consumed everything it touched. Valorian workers fled in terror as their buildings dissolved around them. The gray goo spread across the planet's surface like a cancer. Tai-Hyung's team watched from orbit. "Sir," Hana-Yoon said quietly, "should we stop it? It's going to consume the entire planet." Tae-Hyung looked at the spreading gray mass below. "No. Let it spread. The Valorians need to understand what we're capable of." But then he pressed a button on his control pad. The gray goo stopped spreading immediately and began to break down. Within hours, it would be gone, leaving behind only a barren wasteland where the depot had been. "We're not monsters," Tae-Hyung said. "We just need them to know we could be if we wanted to." Back at Mars, Admiral Hyunwoo's fleet arrived, 23 Earth warships, the largest force humanity had assembled in 50 years. They were slower than the Valorian ships, their shields were weaker, their weapons had less range. None of that mattered. "Deploy quantum disruptors," Hyunwoo ordered. The human ships fired strange devices that didn't explode. They just appeared near Valorian ships and turned on. Space itself seemed to twist around them. Valorian ships caught in the effect simply stopped working. Their engines cut out. Their shields collapsed. Their life support systems failed. The quantum disruptors disrupted the very laws of physics in a small area. It was technology humanity had developed by accident, during experiments to create faster-than-light travel. It was so dangerous that the scientists who invented it destroyed all their research and swore never to speak of it again. But the military had kept copies, just in case. "Target the flagship," Hyunwoo said. "Vexthal's ship. Disable it. Don't destroy it. I want him alive." 2 disruptors activated near Vexthal's massive blade-shaped ship. The vessel went dark. Emergency lights flickered on. The crew panicked. Vexthal sat in his command chair, staring at the dead screens around him. "I don't understand," he whispered. "We are the superior civilization. We have conquered the galaxy. How are we losing to primitives?" His tactical officer, the one who had survived, answered quietly. "Because they're not primitives, sir. They just pretended to be." On the bulwark, Captain Minho watched the battle unfold. The Valorian fleet was breaking apart. Some ships tried to flee. Others tried to surrender. A few still fought, but they were dying fast. "Captain," Lieutenant Parks said, "we're receiving multiple surrender requests from Valorian ships." Minho's face was stone. "Ignore them. Continue the attack." "Sir, they're asking for mercy." "And we asked them to leave," Minho replied coldly. 72 hours. We gave them 72 hours to turn around and go home. Ambassador Jisoo begged them. Twice. They laughed at us. They called us weak. He leaned forward. Now they learn what mercy actually was. Mercy was the warning. Mercy was the time we gave them. They refused mercy, so now they get justice. Another Valorian ship exploded as kinetic rods tore through its hull. Its crew of 300 died in seconds. General Do-hyun received reports from across the battle. The numbers were staggering. In 6 hours of fighting, the Valorians had lost over 1,000 ships. Human casualties were minimal, mostly from accidents and equipment failures. "Sir," an aide said, "intelligence reports the Valorian Empire is in chaos. News of the battle has reached their homeworld. Several member species are demanding withdrawal." "Good," Do-hyun said. "But we don't stop. Not yet. We need to make sure they never come back." He pulled up a map of Valorian space. "Admiral Hyunwoo, once you've secured Mars orbit, I want you to take the fleet into their territory, not to conquer, just to show them we can reach them whenever we want." "Understood," Hyunwoo replied. "How far should we go?" "All the way to their homeworld if necessary," Do-hyun said. "Let them feel the same fear they wanted us to feel." Across the galaxy, the Valorian Empire watched in horror as the humans turned from defenders to attackers. Earth ships didn't stop at Mars. They pursued the fleeing Valorian fleet. They chased them through quantum jumps. They followed them to their supply bases. Everywhere humans appeared, Valorian forces crumbled. Not because human technology was better, but because humans fought with a ferocity the Valorians had never encountered. They used weapons the Valorians couldn't defend against because they were too simple, too crude, too brutal. In his disabled ship, Commander Vexithal listened to the reports. His empire was falling apart. Hundreds of worlds were panicking. The member species that made up the Valorian coalition were demanding answers. How did this happen? How did they lose to a single planet? A human transport ship docked with his disabled flagship. Soldiers in armor boarded. They moved through the corridors, searching for survivors. When they reached the bridge, they found Vexthal sitting alone in the dark. The human soldier removed his helmet. It was Colonel Jinwoo Nam, an engineering specialist. He looked at the defeated alien commander with something like pity. "You should have left when we warned you," Jinwoo said quietly. "We didn't want this." Vexthal looked up at him. "Why? Why did you pretend to be weak?" "We weren't pretending," Jinwoo replied. "We were being careful. Do you know what humans did to each other before we unified?" "We built nuclear weapons and almost destroyed ourselves. We created diseases that killed millions. We fought wars that burned continents." He gestured at the dead ship around them. "All those weapons we just used on you, we built them to use on ourselves. We were so terrified of what we'd created that we locked it all away." "Then why unleash it now?" "Because you didn't give us a choice," Jinwoo said. "Mercy was warning you. Mercy was giving you time to leave. You refused mercy. So we showed you what we actually are." He paused. "We're not the heroes of this galaxy. We're the monsters who learned to behave. But when you threaten our families, our homes, our children," his voice went cold, "the monsters come back." The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Valorian Empire was retreating. The humans were pursuing. On the Valorian homeworld of Valor Prime, the High Council gathered in emergency session. 12 species sat around the circular table, each one representing a conquered world that had joined the Empire. They all looked terrified. "How many ships have we lost?" asked Counselor Rexthar, a tall being with 6 arms. "Over 2,000, replied the military advisor. "And the humans show no signs of stopping. They're moving into our territory. Their ships have been spotted near 7 supply worlds." "What are their demands?" another counselor asked. "Do they want territory, resources, tribute?" The advisor's scales paled. "That's the thing. They haven't made any demands. They just attack military targets and leave. They're not conquering anything. They're just showing us they can." Counselor Mirakel, one of the oldest members, spoke quietly. "They're teaching us a lesson, showing us what they're capable of. But why? They could take our worlds. They could enslave us like we planned to do to them." "Because that's not what they want," Mirakel said. "They want us to understand what we awakened. They want us to fear them." Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Phoenix Rising. His fleet had jumped deep into Valorian space. They were only 3 light years from Valor Prime itself. His orders were clear. Demonstrate capability without mass casualties. Show strength, not cruelty. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the Valorian government. They're asking for a ceasefire." "Are they surrendering?" "Not formally. They're asking for negotiations." Hyunwoo thought for a moment. "Tell them we'll consider negotiations after we complete our current objective." "Which is, sir?" Hyunwoo pointed at the tactical display. It showed the Valorian homeworld, protected by a defensive grid of orbital weapons platforms. "We're going to fly to their homeworld. We're going to show them we can reach them anytime we want." Then we'll talk. His officers looked shocked. Sir, that defensive grid could destroy our entire fleet. It could, Hyun-woo agreed, if we flew straight at it, but we won't. He smiled grimly. Deploy the Ghost Protocol. The human ships activated a new system, one that had been tested but never used in actual combat. Quantum stealth generators. They didn't make the ships invisible exactly. They made them exist in a state of quantum uncertainty, flickering in and out of normal space so fast that targeting systems couldn't lock onto them. The technology was unstable. It could fail at any moment. It gave every crew member terrible headaches and sometimes caused hallucinations. It was dangerous enough that every nation on Earth had agreed it was too risky to use. But these weren't normal times. The Phoenix Rising and its escort ships flickered like ghosts and slipped through the Valorian defensive grid. Alarms screamed on Valor Prime as sensors detected something, but couldn't track it. The orbital platforms fired blindly, their weapons striking empty space. Hyun-woo's fleet appeared directly above Valor Prime. They didn't fire. They just sat there, weapons armed but silent. 12 human warships hanging in the sky above the Valorian homeworld like vengeful angels. The message was clear. We can reach you. We can destroy you. We choose not to. On the planet below, billions of Valorians looked up at the sky and felt fear for the first time in their civilization's history. Meanwhile, Specialist Hana Yoon worked at her station aboard a human intelligence ship. Her job was psychological warfare, and she was very good at it. She had been broadcasting messages to Valorian worlds for the past 3 days. The broadcasts showed footage from Earth's history, world wars with millions dead, nuclear weapons turning cities to ash, trenches filled with bodies, concentration camps, biological weapons, chemical warfare, genocide. Humans did this to themselves, Hana narrated calmly. For thousands of years, we killed each other by the millions. We invented weapons specifically designed to maximize suffering. We got very, very good at destruction. The footage shifted to more recent images. Disabled Valorian ships, destroyed supply depots, the gray goo consuming an entire military base. We learned to stop, Hana continued. We chose peace. We locked away our weapons and swore never to use them again. We begged you to leave before we had to show you what we were capable of. Her voice went cold. You didn't listen. Now you know. The humans who conquered their own planet, who survived their own worst impulses, are coming for you. And we're not even using our worst weapons yet. The broadcasts were having their effect. Across the Valorian Empire, member species started to panic. Some demanded withdrawal from the war. Others blamed the High Council for provoking humanity. A few suggested surrendering immediately. Commander Vexthal, now a prisoner aboard a human ship, watched the same broadcasts in his cell. He had requested an audience with the human command staff. Captain Minho visited him. Why are you showing them this? Vexthal asked. You're making them fear you. You're becoming the monsters you claim you stopped being. Minho sat down across from him. We're showing them the truth. This is what humans are. This is what we did to ourselves when we were divided. Now imagine what we can do to you, united with a single purpose. You're trying to terrorize us. No, Minho corrected. We're trying to make sure this never happens again. Fear is the only language your empire understands. You've spent 3,000 years conquering the weak. Now you meet something that refuses to be weak, and you call it terrorism. Vexthal was silent for a long moment. What do you want? What are your terms? We don't want your territory. We don't want your resources. We don't want your empire, Minho said. We want to be left alone, and we want to make sure you never threaten us or anyone else again. You're going to destroy the empire. No, you did that yourself when you attacked us. Minho stood to leave. We're just making sure everyone knows what happens when they threaten Earth. The Valorian High Council finally sent a formal surrender request. It arrived at Earth 3 days after the battle at Mars. Ambassador Jisoo read it aloud to the United Nations Assembly. The Valorian Empire formally requests a ceasefire and immediate negotiations. They acknowledge their aggression and seek terms for peace. The assembly was silent. Then someone asked, "What are our terms?" General Do-Yun stepped forward. "Our terms are simple. Complete military withdrawal from our system, full recognition of human sovereignty, and a galaxy-wide declaration that Earth is not to be threatened, attacked, or contacted for military purposes ever again." "That's it?" someone asked. "We're not taking any territory? No reparations?" "We don't want their territory," Do-Hyun said. "We want them to leave us alone, forever." Dr. Yuna Han, the xenopsychology expert, finally escaped her Valorian prison when human forces raided the research station where she was held. She was brought before the Earth Council to share her expertise. "The Valorians made a fundamental error," she explained. "They assumed our restraint was weakness. In their 3,000 years of conquest, they never encountered a species that chose not to use their full military capability. To them, mercy and restraint were signs of primitiveness." "And now?" asked the Secretary General. "Now they're learning what every human nation learned the hard way, that the most dangerous enemy is not the one with the biggest weapons, but the one who chooses not to use them until absolutely necessary." Yuna's face was grim. "We spent centuries fighting each other. We got very good at war. Then we stopped. Not because we couldn't fight anymore, but because we finally understood the cost. The Valorians never learned that lesson. They kept conquering because no one could stop them. Until now," someone murmured. "Until now," Yuna agreed. In his cell, Vexthal received a visitor. It was Ambassador Jisoo. She sat across from him, the same calm expression on her face. "I remember you," Vexthal said bitterly. "You begged us to leave. We laughed at you." "I wasn't begging for us," Jisoo said quietly. "I was begging for you. I knew what would happen if you attacked. I've studied human history. I know what we're capable of when threatened. You could have just surrendered. Billions would still be alive." Jisoo's eyes flashed. "And billions of humans would be slaves. My children would grow up under Valorian rule. No. We gave you a warning. We gave you time. You chose to ignore it. So this is justice?" "This is consequence," Jisoo corrected. "You came to our home with weapons and demands. You destroyed our station. You killed our people. You started a war you thought you couldn't lose. Now you're learning that you never should have started it at all." Vexthal slumped in his chair. "What happens now? To me? To my people?" "You'll be tried for war crimes," Jisoo said. "Your fleet commanders will face similar trials. As for your people," she paused, "we'll make sure they understand what happened here. We'll make sure the entire galaxy understands. Then we'll leave. We'll go back to our system and hope we never have to do this again." "You're not going to conquer us?" "We don't want to conquer you," Jisoo said tiredly. "We never did. We just wanted to be left alone." She stood to leave. "You came to our world and demanded submission. We showed you what happens when you threaten the one species in the galaxy that learned to chain its own monsters. Those chains are off now. The beasts of Earth are awake. And we're making sure everyone knows to never wake them again." 3 months after the first Valorian ship appeared above Earth, the war ended. Not with a final battle, but with a signature on a document. The Treaty of New Geneva was short, only 3 pages. Ambassador Jisoo stood before representatives from 47 different alien species and read the terms aloud. Article 1. The Valorian Empire formally recognizes the sovereignty of Earth and all its colonies. No military forces will enter human space without explicit permission. Article 2. The Empire will pay no reparations, cede no territory, and make no formal apology. Instead, they will spread one message across the galaxy: leave humanity alone. Article 3. Earth will withdraw all military forces from Valorian space within 30 days. All prisoners will be exchanged. All hostilities will cease immediately. The alien representatives whispered among themselves. It was the gentlest peace treaty in galactic history. No punishment, no occupation, no revenge. Counselor Mirakel of Valor Prime spoke up. Why? We attacked you. We tried to conquer you. We killed your people. Why show mercy now? Jisoo looked at her calmly. Because we're not interested in conquest. We never were. We just wanted you to leave us alone. Now you will. Now everyone will. But you could destroy us, another alien said. We've seen your weapons. You could take the entire galaxy if you wanted. We could, General Doyun agreed, standing beside Jisoo. But we won't. Do you know why? Because we've already ruled a world, Earth, and ruling it nearly destroyed us. We fought wars that killed billions. We built weapons that could end all life. We finally learned that conquest isn't strength, it's weakness. Real strength is knowing when to stop. Dr. Yuna Han stepped forward. She had been asked to give a presentation to the galactic community about human psychology. Her lecture was broadcast to 1,000 worlds. You need to understand what humans are, she began. We evolved on a death world, a planet with predators, diseases, natural disasters, and extreme environments. We survived by becoming the most dangerous thing on our world. We out-hunted every predator. We conquered every environment. We became so good at survival that we started fighting each other. She brought up images of Earth's history, ancient battles, medieval wars, modern warfare. For 10,000 years, we killed each other. We got better at it every generation. Better weapons, better tactics, better ways to cause death and suffering. And then, about 200 years ago, we created weapons that could destroy our entire species. Nuclear bombs, biological weapons, chemicals that could kill every living thing on the planet. The alien audience watched in horror as mushroom clouds filled the screens. We came to a choice, Yuna continued. We could keep fighting until we destroyed ourselves, or we could stop. We chose to stop. We unified. We locked away our worst weapons. We swore never to use them again. She paused. But we kept them, just in case. And when you attacked us, Commander Vexthal, you proved why we were right to keep them. A young alien student raised a tentacle. But if you're so dangerous, why haven't you conquered the galaxy? Why stay on your one planet? Because we're not monsters, Yuna said simply. We're people who learned from our mistakes. We know what conquest costs. We know what war does. We choose peace not because we're weak, but because we're strong enough to make that choice. Her voice hardened. But when someone threatens our families, our children, our future, we become what we once were. And that's what the Valorians learned. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The orbital defense platforms powered down. The forbidden weapons were locked away again. Soldiers returned home. Captain Minho stood on the bulwark one final time before the station was decommissioned. Lieutenant Park stood beside him. Sir, do you think they'll really leave us alone? She asked. Minho looked out at the stars. I think they're too afraid not to. We showed them what we're capable of. Now they'll spend the next 1,000 years making sure no one ever threatens us again. Was it worth it? All those Valorian deaths? Minho was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Ask me in 50 years when my grandchildren are growing up in a galaxy that leaves us in peace. Then maybe I'll have an answer. Admiral Hyunwoo retired after the war. He gave one final interview before he disappeared from public life. People ask me if I'm proud of what we did, he said. I'm not. I'm relieved. Relieved that we don't have to do it again. We proved our point. We showed the galaxy what humans are when we stop holding back. Now we can go back to holding back. We can be better again. Do you regret the Valorian casualties? The interviewer asked. Hyunwoo's face was stone. I regret that they didn't listen to Ambassador Jisoo. I regret that they laughed at our warnings. I regret that they forced us to become what we were. But the deaths themselves? No. They chose their path. We gave them every chance to turn back. Pilot Sora Kang left the military after the war. She became a teacher, training new pilots. On her first day, a young student asked her what the war was like. Terrible, Sora said honestly. Flying at those speeds, pushing our bodies past human limits, watching ships explode. It was necessary, but terrible. Were the Valorians really that bad? No, Sora said. They weren't evil. They were just ignorant. They didn't understand what they were dealing with. They thought strength meant having the biggest weapons. They didn't understand that strength sometimes means choosing not to use those weapons. And when they forced us to use them, Sora looked sad. Then they learned why we chose not to in the first place. The Valorian Empire dissolved within a year of the treaty. The member species that had been conquered 3,000 years ago finally saw an opportunity to break free. Without their military dominance, the Valorians couldn't hold the empire together. In its place, a new organization formed, the Accord of Distant Suns. 40 species signed it. The agreement was simple: mutual defense, trade cooperation, and one absolute rule. Do not threaten humanity. Commander Vexthal was tried for war crimes. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. But before his sentence began, he requested one final statement. It was broadcast across the galaxy. I led the Valorian fleet to Earth, he said, his 4 eyes downcast. I was confident. I was proud. I believed we were the superior civilization bringing order to primitives. He paused. I was wrong about everything. The humans warned us, not once but twice. Ambassador Jisoo begged us to leave. I thought she was begging for mercy for her people. I didn't understand. She was begging for mercy for us. He looked directly at the camera. Let me be clear to every species watching this. Humans are not primitives. They are predators who learn to cooperate. They are killers who chose civilization. They built weapons so terrible that they locked them away and swore never to use them. Then I forced them to break that oath. His voice cracked. The humans didn't want this war. They tried to stop it. They gave us every chance to turn back. We laughed at their warnings. We mocked their pleas. We thought we were strong and they were weak. We learned the truth too late. There is a human saying, Vexthal continued, beware the fury of a patient man. I understand it now. Humans are the most patient species I've ever encountered. They will endure insults. They will accept setbacks. They will try every peaceful option first. But when you finally push them too far, he closed all 4 eyes. When you forced them to fight, you learn why they were trying so hard to avoid the fight in the first place. The war lasted 3 months. We lost thousands of ships. They lost dozens. It wasn't even close. And the terrifying thing? They told us they weren't even using their worst weapons. Everything they unleashed on us, the kinetic weapons, the quantum disruptors, the nano machines, those were just the things they were willing to use. There are worse things in their arsenals, things they still won't talk about. He opened his eyes. So I say this to every species in the galaxy. Leave the humans alone. Don't contact them unless invited. Don't threaten them. Don't test them. Because if you do, you'll learn what I learned. The beasts of Earth are sleeping now. Let them sleep, because if you wake them, they will show you exactly why they chained themselves in the first place. On Earth, children learned about the war in school. Teachers struggled to explain it. How do you tell children that their species was capable of such violence? How do you teach them about weapons that could destroy planets? One teacher, a veteran named Hana Yoon, who had served in the war, found a way. She told her students a story. "Once upon a time," she said, "there was a strong person who learned to control their strength. They could hurt people, but they chose not to. They were kind. They were gentle. They only used their strength to help others. One day, a bully came along. The bully saw the strong person being gentle and thought they were weak. The bully pushed them. The strong person asked them to stop. The bully pushed harder. The strong person begged them to stop. The bully laughed and pushed even harder. Finally, the strong person had no choice. They showed the bully their real strength, not to hurt them, but to teach them, to make sure they never bullied anyone again." A student raised their hand. Was the strong person wrong to fight back? Hannah thought carefully. No, but they weren't right either. Sometimes there are no right choices, only necessary ones. The strong person didn't want to fight. They tried everything to avoid it. But when they had to fight, they made sure it counted. They made sure the bully would never threaten them or anyone else again. Are we the strong person? Yes, Hannah said. We are. And we must never forget what we're capable of. But we must also never forget why we choose not to use that capability unless absolutely necessary. Years later, a human colony ship ventured into unexplored space. Pilot Sora Kong, now old and gray, captained the vessel. They discovered a beautiful planet, perfect for colonization. As they prepared to land, they detected alien ruins. An ancient civilization had lived here once. Sora ordered her crew to study the ruins carefully. They found murals, writings, and artifacts. Slowly, they pieced together the story. This civilization had destroyed itself in a nuclear war 5,000 years ago. Sora stood before one mural that showed two armies facing each other, weapons raised. She reached out and touched the ancient stone. "We could have been you," she whispered. "We almost were you, but we learned. We stopped. We chose a different path." She turned to her crew. "We're not colonizing this planet. We're making it a monument, a reminder. This is what happens when a species can't control its own violence. This is what we avoided. This is why we work so hard to never become what we once were." The colony ship moved on, leaving the dead planet behind. But Sora made sure every human child learned about it. Another lesson. Another reminder. We are capable of great destruction. We must never forget that. But we must also never surrender to it. On the Valorian homeworld, now independent and peaceful, an old scholar named Rick Smole wrote the definitive history of the war. His final chapter was titled The Lesson. Humanity taught us something our 3,000 years of conquest never did. They showed us the difference between strength and cruelty, between power and domination, between civilization and empire. We thought we were civilized because we conquered. They showed us that true civilization is choosing not to conquer when you have the power to do so. They pleaded for mercy, not for themselves, but for us. We didn't understand. We thought pleading was weakness. We didn't realize it was grace. They gave us a chance to walk away. We refused. And so the beasts of earth came, not in rage, but in necessity. Let this be written in every language, on every world, for every generation. When humans warn you, listen. When they ask you to stop, stop. When they beg you to turn back, run. Because if you force them to fight, you will learn why they tried so hard to avoid fighting in the first place. The beasts of earth are sleeping again. Let us pray they never need to wake. Ambassador Jisoo, now retired, sat in her garden on Earth. She was old now, her hair white, her hands shaking. But her eyes were still sharp. A young reporter came to interview her. "Do you regret what happened?" the reporter asked. Jisoo was quiet for a long time. "Every day," she finally said, "I think about those Valorian crews who died. I think about their families. I think about how it might have ended differently if they had just listened. But you also saved billions of human lives. Yes. And that's what I have to live with, the knowledge that my warnings saved us but couldn't save them. That I tried my best to prevent the war, but in the end, I helped prosecute it. She looked at the flowers in her garden. War is never clean. It's never simple. Even when you win, you lose something. We lost our innocence. We proved we could be monsters again. Now we have to make sure we never forget that, while also never becoming it. What would you say to young people today? Jisoo smiled sadly. I would tell them that peace is not the absence of violence. It's the choice to avoid violence even when you're capable of it. We showed the galaxy our teeth. Now we must show them our humanity. We must be better than what we were, better than what we're capable of being. That's the real challenge, not winning the war, but winning the peace that follows. As the sun set over Earth, the old ambassador watched the stars come out. Somewhere up there, in the vast darkness of space, alien civilizations looked at those same stars and remembered the war. They remembered the warnings. They remembered the pleading. They remembered that they had been offered mercy and refused it. And they remembered what happened next. The beasts of Earth had returned to sleep, but the galaxy would never forget they were there, waiting, patient, restrained, but ready. And that was exactly how humanity wanted it.